Well, for a micromanaging White House, maybe they just ought to go look in a mirror.
Meaning?
Meaning, maybe they ought to think about the way they do business. And I think it's fair to say that the book is a lot more critical about the people around the president than it is of the president himself.
But isn't that critical of the president and his overall managerial style?
Well, at the end of the day, the president controls what goes on inside the White House. And, you know, I acknowledge in the book that on the micromanagement issue, I never really discussed that with the president. Maybe one or two occasions when I was really angry. Because I worked in the White House for nearly 9 years under 4 different presidents. The environment and the style of a White House is established by the president.
The president, responding to Robert Gates and the book, had this to say. Roll it.
As he notes, he and I and the rest of my national security team came up with a strategy for Afghanistan that was the right strategy, and we are continuing to execute. And I think that what's important is that we got the policy right, but that this is hard, and it always has been. Whenever you've got men and women that you are sending into harm's way after having already made enormous investments of blood and treasure in another country, then part of your job as Commander-in-Chief is to sweat the details on it and to recognize that there's enormous sacrifices that are being made, and you're constantly asking yourselves questions about how you can improve the strategy. The good news is that because of that strategy that we came up with, by the end of this year we will have completed combat operations in Afghanistan. We are in a position.
Once again, he's highlighting the ending of the war, not winning the war, the ending of the war because of his strategy, drawing the ending of the war to the strategy. So he's able to leave because of the strategy that he, according to Bob Gates in the reported excerpts, he doesn't believe in, lost confidence on, lost faith in as early as 2010 after deliberating for months and announcing the strategy in December 2009. Our guest, Aaron Selnick, U.S. Air Force veteran and advisor on Veterans Affairs. He served in the Bush administration as an advisor on Veterans Affairs. He is of Concerned Veterans for America, and he joins us now, Air Force veteran himself. Welcome, sir.
Hey, appreciate being on the show. Thank you so much for having me.
Oh, thank you for coming. I would just ask your initial response to the statement. Did you catch the president's statement there? Part of the statement, obviously, there's always editing, but just in response to Bob Gates' criticism, talking about how the strategy outlined and agreed upon with Gates has allowed for us, the United States, to withdraw from Afghanistan on a timeline and end the war. Your thoughts, sir?
Yeah, let me just say that for your listeners, when I was in the Bush White House, worked for President Bush at the VA, I was also matrixed to the White House for 4 years working on the faith-based initiative. So I have a good understanding of how a White House staff actually implements what the president wants. The problem is, if you are just concerned with whether or not the policy is right, that's like being concerned about, did I state the question right? It's the answer. It's the outcomes that matter. And unfortunately, the president doesn't seem to care about the outcomes, just, put the question out there correctly. And so it's really, really concerning because rather than focusing on winning wars, he's only focusing about getting out of wars. And that has huge national security policy because, as we know in 2001 with 9/11, you're either going to fight these wars over there or you're going to fight them here. He got out of Iraq after we were already in the process of after having won that war. He got out of Iraq poorly, and right now we're going backwards. Al-Qaeda is getting a strong foothold. And I'm really concerned that once we leave Afghanistan, without actually really winning it, that Al-Qaeda is going to, and the Taliban is going to establish themselves, and we're going to have in a few years a big terrorist presence both in Afghanistan and in Iraq, and we will have done a lot of this fighting and dying for nothing.
Just speaking to Iraq, with the status of forces agreement and allowing for immunity for the troops, and that being a sticking point, putting it before Parliament, that was called a poison pill, and part of what broke down the issue of the entire agreement for us to stay. But I understand that could have been dealt with administratively by just referring to our troops as diplomats, and they would have escaped that. Tell me, did President Obama, you said blew it in the sense of not being able to establish it, but did he lose Iraq? Is that where the blame lies? And with the statements I've made, are those true?
Well, I don't know. We don't know quite yet if we have lost Iraq, but it's going in that direction. And certainly, at a minimum, the problems we have in Iraq are due to his and his staff's incompetence. And I've seen this with the staff at the VA, and I've talked about this with the hospital problems and the claims problems. But it's not just wanting something, it's about how do you do it and getting the right outcomes and having the competence. And unfortunately, his staff, the people he hired them for ideological reasons, not on competence. When I worked for President Bush, he hired on competence first, and what he used to always say, which is how I think it should be and how I think Gates believed, was that once you're hired to work for the president, to work in the government, your number one priority is serving the American people and doing a good job. I just have not seen that competence or ability or that thought in the Obama administration.
How about serving the people that you send into harm's way, as you have been a part of? And my question would be the revelation that Hillary Clinton and President Obama basically admitted that they voted against the surge in 2006, 2007 for political reasons. What is that? First off, your response and the impact that has on the troops.
Well, unfortunately it's not a surprise to me or the troops. When I was at the VA, and I'm talking about career staff, then Senator Obama was probably one of the most disliked senators because no one thought that he was genuine, that has come through. The bottom line is you can say what you want, but it's your actions that tell. And I'm not on active duty anymore, but I have lots of friends who have and who served in Iraq and Afghanistan. And this being against the surge, being against the policy, you can't be for the troops and be against the policy that the troops are doing. They are become one and the same. And yes, it has definitely affected morale. The restrictions placed on the troops have caused unnecessary deaths, both in Iraq and Afghanistan. I think Lone Survivor is a good example of how decisions were made based on the perception of how it would play out and not based on military reality. So this has had a real negative impact on the troops. And even today, the president, has signed off and been behind cutting the military pensions. That would not have happened if he hadn't signed off on it for the Senate and the Congress to come on it. So he can say what he wants, the administration can say what he wants, but actions and deeds are what are important, not words.
So the buck stops with the president.
It sure does.
I would like to play for you an excerpt of an interview with Jake Tapper that you mentioned, Lone Survivor, Marcus Luttrell, the man the movie is based on, and this exchange, and get your thoughts. Would that be all right?
Sure.
All right. Let's get to that clip. It's cut number 17. Roll it.
It's clear for Marcus Luttrell the battle that day, almost a decade ago, still cuts close to the bone today.
One of the emotions I felt while watching the film is, first of all, just the hopelessness of the situation, how horrific it was, and also just all that loss of life. of these brave American men. And I was torn about the message of the film in the same way that I think I am about the war in Afghanistan itself. I don't want any more senseless American death, and at the same time I know that there are bad people there and good people who need help. Was that intentional?
Well, I don't know what part of the film you were watching, but hopelessness never really came into it. I mean, where did you see that? Because there was never at a point where we were just felt like we were hopelessly lost or anything like that. We never gave up. I never felt like that we were losing until we were actually dead. I mean, that never came across and in the battle and while we were fighting on the mountain, and it was just us against them.
Forget hopelessness, just the sense of all these wonderful people who died. It seemed senseless. I don't mean to disrespect in any way, but it seemed senseless. All these wonderful people who were killed for an op that went wrong.
We spend our whole lives trained to defend this country, and then we were sent over there by this country. So you're telling me that because we were over there doing what we were told by our country that it was senseless and they died for nothing?
No, I'm not saying that at all.
That's what you said. So let me just say that, yeah, it went bad for us over there, but that was our job. That's what we did. We didn't complain about it. We went out there and did what we did best, and at the end of it, we weren't standing. They were. We were lucky. No, excuse me, I was lucky. And the rest of the guys, we fought as hard as we possibly could and never felt sorry for ourselves while we were out there. This was the job. We were going after a high value target, and it just got switched on us.
Maybe it's just the difference between what a civilian feels when he watches this versus what a soldier does.
Absolutely.
So if you're in the room there, Darren, and you're a part of that conversation, what do you say?
Well, I say, Jake, you don't get it. I mean, I live out here in Southern California, and I've heard this before. The terminology they don't get. They just see all war as senseless because they're so removed from it. To a military person, you have a mission. You know what you're doing. Of course, it makes perfect sense, and you are protecting this country. And every soldier, sailor, airman that went overseas did it knowing that they were fighting the bad guys there rather than fighting the bad guys here. But for people who don't understand the military, who don't understand the war on terror, I can see how they would think it's senseless because they don't get it. They just don't get it, and that is a big problem. And that's why it's insulting to military men, women, and veterans. And someone says what you're doing is senseless. No, it's not meaningless. It's not senseless. We are patriots, and we volunteer to serve our country, and we expect the respect. And that sort of attitude is what's carried over into the pension cuts. I hate to bring the pension cuts.
No. Bring them up. I want to get to that. And if you could be with us for the remainder of the show, that would be great. We go to about 25, 26 after. If I'm cutting in on your time, let me know, and we'll wrap right now with the pension cuts. But I want to ask a follow up if not.
No, I'm good.
Thank you.
But I only bring the pension cuts in because it's an attitude. It's an attitude of not getting it. And so when you have that breach of faith, that breach of trust, that's why the military and the veterans are so upset. Including myself, because I actually am retired military as well. Because you sign on the dotted line with a certain amount of your country's support, and when your country stops supporting you and is breaking that faith, it really, really upsets. And so it's not really the dollar amount, it's the breach of faith, the breach of trust, which is what's upsetting to the military, both on things like the military pension and in questions like Jake Tapper asked.
Yeah, well, and I want to get to the fact that I've said I look at the way we have 60% entitlements versus 18 to 22% regarding the military, and as a percentage of GDP, we're sitting at 4% or under. It's outrageous, and it should be flipped big time. And we'll close with that. But Jake Tapper doesn't get it, and he's part of the press. And quite frankly, it's their job to get it. It's their job to bring us the rest of the story. They're the fourth estate. They're supposed to be telling us what we're doing over there. And if there are genuine questions of why we're over there and this is senseless, then to question the president on a daily basis of why are you still there if they believe that. But that's one point. Here's the other point. Does the president get it? Because if he puts people in harm's way, doesn't believe in the mission, or reportedly has lost confidence in the mission, doesn't listen to his generals, ignored his three occasions we can cite on troop levels to announcing withdrawal of not listening to his generals, and then the political calculation regarding the surge. Does the president get it? Darren?
Well, in my opinion, this is my opinion, I think he doesn't. And I think you can look at a long line of actions that you would hope that once he became president and he got the daily briefings that he would get it. But if he got it, he wouldn't be cutting the military the way he's doing it. You know, he would have never proposed the whole 50-50 on the cuts. He wouldn't be cutting 100,000 women. He seems to think that the DOD and the military is nothing different than EPA or the VA or any other government organization. And he tries to re-engineer them and socially engineer them. And he's continuing to make them more and more less effective as an organization. If he really respected the military, if he really respected the use of the military, you know, you either go in there to win, like we did in 1991, and then get out, or you don't go in at all. You don't respect the military by handing pink slips to servicemen and women as they come back from Iraq and Afghanistan, by cutting the military pensions, by increasing their health care costs. I mean, it's action after action after action that shows he doesn't, at a minimum, he doesn't get it, and he doesn't really respect or understand what he's dealing with.
What about the rules of engagement, specifically in Afghanistan?
Well,
have they cost us lives?
You know, I have talked to many servicemen and women. My own goddaughter's husband, Captain Marines, went over there, and I've talked to friends like Sean Parnell, who wrote a bestseller about his 16 months. The rules of engagement, you know, is like Vietnam all over again. It's like fighting with one arm behind your back. They're just senseless, and you can't. It's like the troops being asked to be a police force. You know, the old saying is, in the military, you're there to, you know, to break things, you know, and to be told that you don't break this, don't break that, be careful with that. You know, lots of poor decisions have been made that have caused death to our troops because we were not able to engage the enemy the way we were supposed to. It's war. It's not a police event. People are going to die, and that's what you have to understand when you send troops in. And you got to give them the tools and the ability, and you know, the rules of engagement are a key agent in that. And in my opinion, I think to this day the rules of engagement have caused body bags to come home that shouldn't have been coming.
Darren, in our remaining moments, tell us what we can do to make sure that those who have served us so heroically and valiantly are taken care of, and we can honor them. What can we do today to make sure we honor them?
It's a good question.
And you.
It's a very good question, and obviously Congress thinks the American people do not care anymore. So what your listeners can do, what every American who cares should do, is they need to call and write their congressman, their senator, and the president to tell them, you know, to stop on the military pensions, the cuts. To properly fund and support the military. Concerned Veterans for America, you know, which I am a part of. If you don't know how to do that, you know, you can go to our website, cv4a.org, and you can sign up. We have grassroots volunteers and the coordinators across the country will teach you how to make a difference and how to spend your time in a fruitful way that will support the military, the veterans, but in your own self-interest, your own national security to keep America safe.
Darren Selnick, I want to say thank you for taking the time today. It is a pleasure. It's a privilege and an honor to speak with you. Thank you for your service. And with permission, I'm going to post the link up on the Facebook so people can access that.
Great.
And God bless you. Thank you so much. Great to be
God
with
bless
you,
you,
sir.
and thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you. Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth. Hey, live with honor in your life, compassion in your heart, and always keep the faith in Jesus Christ. Remember this, God knows you. He created you. There's a reason you've heard what you've heard tonight and that you're a part of Nothing But Truth right here on AFR Talk. Lock it in. He has a plan for you. He has blessed you with many gifts. He has a purpose for you. He loves you. Crane Durham's Nothing But Truth. AFR Talk.